You know, when we talk about the story of India's independence, our minds usually jump straight to the massive political movements or the towering older figures we read about in textbooks. But as we're going to see in this explainer today, it's also about the fierce and incredibly dedicated young people, the ones who gave absolutely everything, not just their youth, but their entire lives for the freedom of their country.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Who actually challenges an entire global empire with both a pen and a pistol, and then ultimately faces the gallows with a smile at merely 30 years old? Well, we're talking about Ram Prasad Bismil. And today, we're going to unpack how his legacy was defined not just by the weapons he eventually picked up, but by the profoundly powerful words he wrote and the ultimate sacrifice he made.
So let's trace this back. Where does a fire like that even start?
To really understand the revolutionary, you have to understand the environment that forged him. Bismil was born on June 11, 1897 in Shahjahanpur, Uttar Pradesh, to his parents Murlidhar and Mulmati Devi. Growing up under British rule, he was a highly sensitive kid. He was seeing it all firsthand: the daily discrimination, the strict oppression, the atrocities committed against Indians. And slowly but surely, this deep anger and a massive drive for justice began to build up inside him.
But here's what makes him different. Instead of just blindly lashing out, Bismil channeled that early anger into philosophy. He became deeply influenced by Swami Dayanand Saraswati and the teachings of the Arya Samaj. Those teachings totally ingrained a profound belief in him, that ending the slavery of his people was going to require way more than just swords and physical combat. It required a true awakening of thoughts, a total shift in mindset, and a widespread social awareness.
So, before he ever picked up a weapon, he used a much more subtle, but arguably more dangerous tool.
Bismil wasn't just a fighter. The guy was a brilliant, evocative poet. Bismil was actually his pen name, and under this name, he was writing this incredibly powerful poetry that was just overflowing with patriotism, the necessity of sacrifice, and an absolutely unbreakable spirit of freedom. His writings acted like a spark. They completely energized the youth of India, proving he was just as brilliant a thinker and communicator as he was a strategist.
He had this one core philosophy that drove everything he did. It was simple, but so profound. If the country is to be freed, the youth will have to come forward. He firmly believed that the raw, unstoppable energy of the young was the actual key to unlocking India's independence. He knew the older generation just couldn't do it alone.
Okay, so he's got the words, he's got the philosophy. But eventually he realizes that ideology has to be backed up by organized action.
And man, Bismil's revolutionary life moved at sheer velocity. Let's look at this timeline. In just under a single decade, he escalates from his first major rebellious act, the Mainpuri conspiracy in 1918, where he's trying to organize the youth and immediately gets marked by the British as a serious threat, to forming the HRA in 1924, pulling off the famous Kakori Action in 1925, and making his ultimate sacrifice in 1927. It escalated incredibly fast.
Let's actually zoom in on 1924 for a second. Even with the heat from the British after the 1918 Mainpuri conspiracy, he pushes forward. He and his comrades established the Hindustan Republican Association, or the HRA, and they had a highly structured three-step vision. Number 1, completely end British rule. Number 2, create a free, independent India. And number 3, systematically prepare the youth for this revolution. It was organized, it was deliberate, and it was so deeply ambitious.
But Bismil knew he couldn't execute this massive vision in isolation, right? The HRA brought together some of the absolute most legendary figures in Indian history. We're talking Chandrasekhar Azad, Ashfaqulla Khan, Satyendranath Sanyal. He built a formidable network of like-minded patriots who completely shared his burning desire for a free nation.
And all of this intense organization eventually leads right up to the most famous, highest-stakes moment of his entire life. Picture this. The year is 1925, specifically August 9th. On this day, Bismil and his fellow revolutionaries put a shockingly bold plan into motion near Kakori in Uttar Pradesh.
It was straight out of a movie. The revolutionaries successfully stopped a train carrying British government treasury funds. But here is the critical thing to understand. This was not a robbery for personal wealth. Not at all. Bismil and his comrades didn't take a single coin for themselves. They captured this wealth strictly to fund the revolutionary movement and literally buy the arms necessary to fight an empire. It was completely devoid of selfish motives.
The key figures who pulled this off included Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqulla Khan, Rajendra Lahiri, and Chandrasekhar Azad. And this audacious act, It sent absolute shockwaves through the British Empire. A small group of Indian youths had essentially hijacked the crown's wealth. In response, the British launched a massive, relentless manhunt to capture every single person involved.
Now, the aftermath of the Kakori action obviously brought tragedy, but it also revealed something really beautiful that represented the very soul of India.
Look at Ram Prasad Bismil and Ashfaqulla Khan. They came from completely different religious backgrounds, but they were united by one ultimate religion, the freedom of Mother India. Their deep friendship, that unbreakable brotherhood, it proved to the masses that in the fight against colonial oppression, the people of India stood completely shoulder to shoulder, entirely undivided by faith. Eventually, following their capture, they were subjected to the Kakori conspiracy case. The British courts handed down the harshest possible punishment, death sentences. But even when captured, totally stripped of their freedom and facing the absolute worst outcome, Bismil's courage never wavered in his prison cell. These revolutionaries accepted their sentences fearlessly.
On December 19, 1927, the sentences were carried out. Ram Prasad Bismil was hanged in Gorakhpur jail. His comrades Ashfaqulla Khan, Rajendra Lahiri, and Takar Roshan Singh were also martyred. The historical accounts tell us that they walked to the gallows with literal smiles on their faces. They were completely, peacefully prepared to offer their lives so that the dream of a free nation might one day become a reality.
30. Take a second to really think about that. At just 30 years old, an incredibly young age, Ram Prasad Bismil's physical life came to an end. But as we know today, his legendary impact on the fabric of India was quite literally just beginning.
Bismil was a poet whose words sparked a revolution, a warrior whose actions terrified an empire, and a lasting symbol of selfless patriotism. As we wrap up this explainer and reflect on his incredible dedication, I want to leave you with a question to think about. How do we, in our modern lives, truly honor the heavy price paid by these fearless youths for the freedom we enjoy today? Keep that in mind and keep exploring the past.